Ooh, SHR had a roller coaster ride of a season, and now it's time for me to recap that.
Lesson from the brain, seeing the beauty through the.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the video, and today we're going to be recapping Stewart HAAS Racing's season. And like I said in the intro, it was a roller coaster of a ride, so buckle up, get ready for it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and comment down below your guys' thoughts in, well, the comment section. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. So we're going to start off talking about Daniel Suarez, who unfortunately is no longer in the team, but that is who we are going to start off with because he had the, I guess, worst season, or he just had the worst finish of all of the other SHR drivers. Despite not making the playoffs, Daniel Suarez had pretty well his best statistical season of his 3-year Cup Series career. He finished 17th in the point standings, had an average finish of 16.4, had 11 top 10s to his name, along with 4 top 5s. Both of those oddly coming at 2 tracks. Both Michigan races he got top 5s, and both Texas races he got top 5s. And those would really be the high points of his season, as he had a strong performance at the first Texas and first Michigan, and then the second Michigan, like I said, he had a strong performance, and then at Texas again, he would actually have a chance at the lead. I don't know if he was necessarily leading, but he was up there in the lead, and unfortunately would just finish third in an SHR dominated race. There would be other parts of the season where he would have good days, maybe wasn't able to finish it out, but had a decent day. And all in all, had for Daniel Suarez's standards, a better season, and in my opinion, the best season of his career, as he's just one top 10 short from tying his record and had more top 5s than in any other season. I didn't really notice this, but he had regressed last season from his rookie season, and completely turned that around this season, and actually started out looking like, I wouldn't say comfortable, but a pretty safely put into the playoffs. But then as the season went on, he had a couple mishaps, and then his points, he just wasn't able to keep up with the people that were safely making their way in. And Erik Jones had his kind of resurgence halfway through the season, where he was getting top 3s left and right, that just kind of knocked him out of the playoffs. He would make one final push at Indianapolis, was not able to get it done, as Ryan Newman would hold him off, and he would not make the playoffs for the 3rd straight year in a row. And he still has yet to make the playoffs, as a matter of fact, and unfortunately would be kicked out of his ride. All in all, I liked what I saw from Daniel Suarez this season. He had a couple races out there that he showed potential, and I think he is a talented driver that just can't seem to find a consistent home. And if he finds a consistent home, maybe he wouldn't turn out to be anything, but I think I would like to see him get some consistency around him, that he can grow and not just have to completely keep on adjusting from team to team. We'll see if he ever gets that. It's not looking bright at the moment. Now here's a mind-blowing fact that a lot of people probably did not know. Aric Almirola stats were similar to that of Daniel Suarez, and I was just as shocked as everybody else. 12 top 10s is just one more than that of Daniel Suarez, and 3 top 5s is one less than that of Daniel Suarez. However, throughout the season, Aric Almirola was safe. He did not really have to worry about getting kicked out of the playoffs. He never got a win or anything, but he just had enough points. He was getting stage points, stuff like that, enough to keep a really safe barrier where he never had to sweat about not making the playoffs. He never really seemed to have any issues that he would just lose points completely. He would lose ground. He just consistently had a cushion that he never had to worry about getting kicked out of the playoffs. However, he would finish 14th, had an average finish of 15.6, and 12 top 10s, like I said, just one more than that of Daniel Suarez this season, and one less top 5 at 3 than Daniel Suarez. So a lot of people are giving Daniel Suarez a lot of flack, but I mean, look over here at Aric Almirola, somebody a lot of people consider to be talented, and I was actually calling him the 2nd best driver at SHR, which my opinion has changed after seeing his stats. I did not really look into his stats that much, but he actually was on par this season with Daniel Suarez. He just happened to make it. He happened to just be The one thing he had on Suarez this year was that he did finish races. He was able to get stage points as well and stuff like that, which was able to kind of buffer him, which really separated him from Daniel Suarez and got him into the playoffs. But really, if Daniel Suarez makes the playoffs this year, him and Aric Almirola had a similar season. I mean, it was not that far off. Throughout the season, there would be a couple races where, like, Aric Almirola, he might finally break through and win at somewhere other than a super speedway. Those would never pan out, as he would go winless again this season. Well, actually, he had to win last year, so not again, but he would go winless this season. And like I said, it was surprising to me. I felt like he was the second best driver at SHR, but I couldn't have been more wrong, because when we move on to Clint Bowyer here, he had a much better season than I actually thought he did. Clint finished 9th in the point standings, just outside that round of 8 cutoff line. He had an average finish of 15.2, which is not much better than that of Aric Almirola, but he had 18 top 10s and 7 top 5s. Now, his one issue was he ran into, well, a lot of issues where he would not be able to finish races, which then jeopardizes his point situation, as he was on the cutoff line, and it was a very possible scenario that Daniel Suarez made it into the playoffs and Clint Bowyer didn't. So, with that being said, I don't think that Clint Bowyer had an insane season. He actually had less top 5s than last season. He had a bit more top 10s than last season. But when he wasn't getting those results, he was not finishing. He was having, kind of abysmal races. He was having mechanical issues, which then started piling up and therefore made him look like he had a worse regular season. He was able to kind of turn it around for the postseason and was able to get a solid 9th place points finish. At the beginning of the season, most people saw Clint Bowyer as a lock for the playoffs, and if he could, have a season, somewhat like last season, maybe he would be able to turn a possible underdog, turn to an underdog for the championship. That never really fizzled out, but not insane improvements on last season, really about the same, just subtract the 2 wins he had last season. Not really, I can't really point to a race. I mean, there was a couple where he was up front. I think Kansas maybe was one, but there wasn't really a certain race I can really point to where he really had a legitimate shot at winning. I think he had a good car at Martinsville, probably both times, but it just never was really able to. Well, he definitely didn't have it the first time because Kozlowski was Kozlowski. But yeah, all in all, Clint Bowyer, he had a decent season, and he was the second best driver at SHR. Throughout the season, I thought it was Aric Almirola, but I didn't really look into the stats, and Clint Bowyer was easily, I would say, the second best driver at SHR last year. Now for the most successful SHR driver this year, Kevin Harvick. Now, at the beginning of the season, you might not have seen these stats coming. He had a finish of 3rd in the playoff standings, and I think there was maybe a brief moment where it looked like, oh, maybe he could do it at the beginning, but pretty much by the second stage you could tell he wasn't really going to be able to compete. Also, fun fact, this is the 3rd year in a row he has finished 3rd in the playoff standings, and I believe actually Martin Truex has finished 2nd in, well, 1st or 2nd in 3 years in a row as well, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I don't know, that's just kind of a reaching of a stat, but just a little fun facts there. He had an average finish of 10 this year, far above his teammates, about 5 I think, because everybody else had 15 and 16, so about 5 above of his teammates. He had 4 wins, but his wins came a little late in the season, which I'll get into in a minute. He had 26 top 10s, just 3 from below last season, and 15 top 5s, which was 10 below last season. But again, last season was so good that it's kind of hard and unfair to compare last season to this season, as just last season was, historic. He had, 23 top 5s, which is an insane amount of top 5s, so it's really unfair to compare last season to this season, so I'm just going to not do that. Now, I wanted to save this to kind of after Kevin Harvick, because I think he's probably the best example of this. At the beginning of the season, he was not looking good, and you can sort of compare this to Hendrick, because at the end of 2017, a lot of people saw them as ascending, if you will, to a top tier team back to, because they were kind of in a little bit of a dipping point. They saw them going back up to being one of the top teams, and they failed at that completely. I wouldn't say SHR failed at being the top team, but a lot of people saw them as being the biggest competitor to that of Joe Gibbs. Right off the bat, we saw that wasn't the way, and kind of a Mandalorian the way. This is the way, but I'm just kidding. I gotta get out of the pop culture stuff. So, anyways, as you know, the season went on. It was not looking good at the halfway point. I mean, a lot of people, like I said, saw them as competing with Joe Gibbs, and they weren't doing that. They were below Penske. I would say Penske looked like the biggest or the most likely option to compete with Joe Gibbs, and that obviously didn't work out because Joe Gibbs, dominated. So SHR kind of went back into the folds. People saw them as maybe the fourth or third best team, which I guess isn't a bad thing, but not what they were expecting. Finally, at New Hampshire, Kevin Harvick broke through and won. And from that point, typically the performance of all four SHR cars improved, and we saw, kind of glimpses of what we saw the Texas race where they all were in the top three. We saw glimpses of what we were seeing last season kind of come back. A lot of people attribute it to the aero package and all that stuff, which I kind of agree with. I think that kind of set them back for whatever reason, this or that. And maybe the switch to Mustang also, just a combination of it, who knows. But yeah, all in all, I mean, it was a good season, I guess. It was not as good as last season. I'd really like to see them come back to 2018 SHR, where all four drivers were out there competing for wins. They didn't necessarily get all the wins. Harvick kind of took them all from him, but Aric Almirola got one. I believe Kurt Busch got one or two. Bowyer got two. So I'd like to see, Cole Custer this year maybe get a win. Clint Bowyer and Aric Almirola. I'd like to see somebody get to that Kevin Harvick level. Kevin Harvick is the only one on this team that is considered a championship contender. Aric Almirola, people like Aric Almirola and Clint Bowyer, they see them as, if they just really went off, they could. A lot of people see them having the talent to do it, but never really the execution to do it. So I'd like to see Aric Almirola, Clint Bowyer, long shot Cole Custer, rise to the level of Kevin Harvick. Because if you look at Hendrick and Joe Gibbs, Joe Gibbs right now has three championship contenders in Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, and Kyle Busch. Erik Jones, I just have to put my 2 cents because I like me some Erik Jones. I feel like he has the talent to be a fourth one. He just hasn't really gotten to that yet, and hopefully he will be able to get to that wherever he goes. Maybe he'll go to SHR. There's always been that rumor swirling around that he gets kicked out. SHR picks him up, but I'm just going to say hush hush because that's just like kind of a dream of mine. But well, I mean, I don't really care if he. Never mind. Let's just get back to it. Anyways, so I just want to see somebody rise to that level. So it's not just Kevin Harvick getting all the wins and stuff. I want to see Aric Almirola and Clint Bowyer get more than just 1 or 2 wins. I want to see them. I want the wealth to be spread. There's the analogy. I want to see the wealth spread throughout SHR, get wins throughout there, and I want to see a dynasty like that of Hendrick Motorsports back when they had Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jimmy Johnson. I know Dale Earnhardt Jr. the entire time he was there was not good, but the couple of years where he was a championship contender, we consider that a dynasty, in my opinion, but I could be wrong. And the Joe Gibbs now with the 3 championship contenders, and honestly, in 3 years could be 5 with the Erik Jones, Christopher Bell, all of that fun jazz. And yeah, that's really all I got on that topic of SHR. I'd like to see somebody else rise to the occasion. That's kind of a preview type of thing, but I guess it's not really a preview because I'm just kind of talking about what I want to see, not really what I expect to see. So I guess a little bit of a preview of the 2019 preview, or 2020 preview, sorry. I got my years mixed up. It's almost 2020, so. But yeah, that's really all I got for today. If you guys enjoy, make sure you leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and comment down below your guys' thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.